Hello and welcome to the SMEFocus show powered by MTDCNC. I'm Mark Weymouth from the Sensor Specialist Plus Automation. I'm your host this week to highlight an aspect of UK manufacturing and a topic of interest to SMEs in particular. My guest today is Fiona McGarry, a Sector Engagement Manager at Enginuity. Enginuity is a charity focused on closing the skills gap in engineering and manufacturing. Fiona is perhaps also known for her 7 years at Make UK in their apprenticeship and training division. Fiona is very visible on LinkedIn, promoting apprenticeships and celebrating young people's achievements. Hi, Fiona. Welcome to SMEFocus.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure, I'm sure. Let's kick off with a little further back in your background, if I could, please. So before Enginuity and Make UK, where did your interest in manufacturing come from and how did you come to get involved in training? And I noticed a lot of that was with JLR, Jaguar Land Rover.
Well, it was all purely by accident. I had no interest in engineering or manufacturing as a young person. My dad was an engineer at Lucas, and I'd obviously grown up in Solihull. You're surrounded by manufacturing with Jaguar, Land Rover, Rover, but it was of no interest to me. Went to uni and then eventually ended up teaching young people who'd been excluded from school and doing careers work. And then through that, an opportunity came up at the Education Partnership Centres at Jaguar Land Rover. Went along to that, got the role, and from that first day when I set foot in the factory, I was just blown away by manufacturing. I just think nothing beats seeing manufacturing in front of you and seeing that sheet of metal come in and then go out as a finished luxury Range Rover. I was just totally amazed. And then that was over 20 odd years ago now. And I've just been really passionate about manufacturing and engineering careers since then. And it's giving young people that opportunity to see behind the myths and the perceptions and see it's a really exciting and rewarding career.
So after 9.5 years in those roles, you moved to EEF, or what is better now nowadays is. How did that come about and how did you find working across a variety of organisations, various customers of Make UK?
So I'd been at Jaguar Land Rover for 9 years and I ended up managing all their education partnership centres across all the sites. So it was a national role and that was brilliant because you had young people from 6 right through to university coming around the centre. And then part of the work that I did then was try to increase the diversity of the apprenticeship scheme at Jaguar Land Rover. So I did a lot of work around trying to attract females into engineering and manufacturing apprenticeships. So we launched Young Women in the Know in 2010. And then I worked on that through the centres for around 5 years. And we started off with 6% of the apprentices as female. And by the time I left to move to Make UK, that year they had an intake of 52% of females across all sites. So that was brilliant because that was that connection then around apprenticeships. And then to go to the EEF Tech Hub then as it was just being open. So they'd had the Tech Training Centre and they decided to expand. So I moved over to the Tech Hub just as it was being launched. And that year we had 250 apprentices. 70 of them were Jaguar Land Rover. And that was just really, really interesting and just really broadened my interest in manufacturing and engineering because you have the little SMEs that are bringing in 1 or 2 apprentices. We had Jaguar Land Rover with a big intake. Amazon had a massive intake at the time and Severn Trent. And it's just ensuring that all those, and there were young people, particularly with a lot of the SMEs. Jaguar Land Rover tend to have a mix of career changers and young people. Severn Trent was mainly young, but Amazon, we ended up with a lot of career changes. So a lot of older, mid-20s. So it's, working with all those different types of people with different careers from your 16-year-old who's just come straight from school right through. I think when I left at the centre, our oldest apprentice was 54. So that's really interesting, seeing people why they've come into the sector and what they want to get out of it. And seeing all the different pathways that everyone's doing and, they all learn a real grounding. So we had metrology apprentices, welding apprentices, and then, following them and seeing their journey. That was brilliant.
And I guess a year or so ago, you moved across to Enginuity. So that must have been a big change now involved in sort of the skills gap and looking at it from their perspective. Can you tell us more about that and the differences?
So I loved my time at Make UK, but I think it's incredibly difficult for training providers these days. I think, Ofsted, everything evolved around that. It makes it a really, really challenging place for training providers, and we need training providers within engineering and manufacturing, those private ones. Colleges and FE do a great job, but I think for a lot of those roles in engineering and manufacturing, you need that private training provider. But I felt I'd done as much as I could around attracting diversity and different types of young people to there. And then this opportunity came at Enginuity. And I'd known about Enginuity because Anne Watson, the CEO, is on the board of Make UK. So there has been close links over the time. And I just thought it'd be really nice to be able to support those SMEs, because at the Tech Hub, we don't get many SMEs coming through for their apprenticeship provision because it is so challenging for them. The model at Make UK is that the apprentice spends the first 9 months at the centre. And I think that's a real blocker for an SME in terms of funding that person for 9 months and not having them actually on site and supporting the business. So that model doesn't work with a lot of SMEs. And I realised that the only way that we're really going to grow apprenticeships within our sector is by supporting SMEs to enable them to upskill and reskill and attract new talent. So opportunities came at Enginuity, and the focus there is around skills, the skills gap, and supporting SMEs.
And Enginuity is a charity. Where does it get its funding from? Who are the key drivers behind Enginuity existing?
So there's some historical money that's available. They used to previously be SEMTA, and then they changed their name, unfortunately, just as COVID happened. So that messaging got missed by a few people. People do know us as SEMTA still, but we are Enginuity. But EAL, which a lot of people probably do know in skills, they're the examining board and the awarding body for a lot of engineering and manufacturing and construction qualifications. The profits from EAL go into Enginuity charity, and we spend that money then on sorting projects, initiatives, and things that we can do around reducing the skills gap in this area.
Okay. You spent a long time sort of involved with apprentices and looking in and probably looking at frustration as different governments have come along and tried to change things. Can I ask you your opinion on sort of the latest talk about the apprenticeship schemes and what should be done? What do you wish for, and what do you think will happen?
I do think we really need to raise the profile of level 2 and level 3 apprenticeships. I think degree apprenticeships are great and they have their place, but I battled for years and years trying to get parents to see an apprenticeship as a viable route for their young person. And there is still very much, unfortunately, the snobbery around, I want my child to go to university. I don't want my child doing an apprenticeship. That's for those kids that aren't really and that were failing. And it's not, and particularly within engineering and manufacturing. And then degree apprenticeships came along, and it then became acceptable to parents. So the amount of parents I hear now that want their young person to do a degree apprenticeship, because to them, they see it like a free apprenticeship, and it's not. It's really hard work, and it takes a certain kind of individual to be able to hold down that role and do a degree at the same time. But within our sector, and I think particularly within SMEs, we need those level 2 and level 3 apprentices. And it's about making that acceptable and raising the profile of those. So a lot of money with the levy, since the levy has been introduced, has been spent on level 7 qualifications. Some of them are great. I appreciate they've created social mobility in certain sectors like solicitors and other areas like that, where young people wouldn't have been able to. But I think within our sector, they've just been spent on leadership and management qualifications. And I think we really need to be enabling more people to access those level 2 and level 3 apprenticeships, and more young people, because the decline in numbers of under 19s coming into apprenticeships is a real concern. And we've got that ageing workforce within manufacturing and engineering. We need that new talent coming through. So anything that the government can do around that, which I think they are doing, supporting upskilling courses and making those accessible for SMEs, I think would be really good, because sometimes it isn't an apprenticeship they need. They just need a shorter course to upskill their workforce. And this is the dream. I know this won't happen, but if they could do something around supporting the wages for SMEs for that first year. So when I was at Jaguar Land Rover, they did a brilliant model called the Overtrained Apprenticeships. So every year they'd take on 250 apprentices. They'd do the first year with them. And then at the end of that, 100 of those apprentices would go and work in the supply chain. And so that supply chain, that SME, had that first year of that apprentice paid for, but also their wages, which is the real blocker for an SME. And then they've got them then where they've come in really skilled, and then something around that. So if something could be done to support SMEs with those wages when you haven't got that presence on site, I think that'd be really useful.
Okay, brilliant. I know that you support initiatives like F1 in schools, but have you got any other thoughts on what could be done to attract more talent into manufacturing? And that could be talent of all ages.
Yeah, we need to move away from the traditional education system, because that secondary education system isn't supporting us and isn't supporting that attraction. We need to be looking at different ways, which is some of the projects we're doing through Enginuity. I'm a governor in alternative provision. I'm really passionate about alternative provisions and supporting those young people that have struggled in school, that are disengaged, and then at 14, you can just put them and say that they're not going to achieve anything, or through alternative provisions and the smaller class sizes and the hands-on learning and career focus, you can get a really engaged young person. There's a brilliant facility in Derby called Engineered Learning, and it's the only one in the country, and they do work with neat young people and alternative provisions and give them skills in manufacturing and engineering, and it's absolutely brilliant how they're turning these young people around. We've also started doing quite a lot of work in prisons around the New Futures Network and supporting prisoners to get the skills and qualifications within welding and other parts of manufacturing, so that when they come out of prison, they've got opportunities, they've got jobs, they've got skills, so that they can support the sector. And STEM returners is another initiative, supporting those people that have left the sector, because particularly with females in engineering, we've got a massive issue of retaining them. So the numbers have been steadily increasing, and they went up to a heady height of 16.5%. But last year it dropped to 15.7%. And that's a real concern. And the work that's been done around that has identified that females between 35 to 44 are leaving the sector. And we need to do more around supporting those females and enabling them to stay and retain their skills, because it's shown that the attraction piece is really working with females into the sector. And those skills competitions like F1 in schools, robots competitions are brilliant at bringing young people through. But we've got to support those females when they're in the sector and retain them. So we're doing some work around that as well, and supporting male allies, because I think they make a real difference in enabling females to be able to stay.
Yeah, oh, fantastic. You mentioned the scheme in Derby. Do you know the reason why that came to existence in Derby? Or there's lots of talk also about opportunities being postcode limited, and it just caught my ear when you mentioned one specific geographic thing. Is that something that's going to be spun out, or is it just a bit of inspiration?
Well, that's one of the projects we're hoping to do this year. So we do our projects, they run from March to March. So we're planning at the moment our next set of projects, and I had a planning day yesterday, and that's what we're looking at, because yes, it's brilliant for those young people in Derby and those businesses in Derby, but this needs to be something that we can look at expanding. Seema Malhotra came to visit for the elections, and she was really impressed with it, and she's looking at some work that could perhaps done to be replicated in London. But no, definitely, I think that's the way that we need to be looking at innovative ways. Gentleman who runs it, Dan, he's fantastic. He's got that unique skill, though, of engineering experience and engineering skills, but also youth work, because alternative provision kids aren't the easiest kids to work with. But if you have the right mentor and the right support, they can really, really flourish. So yes, that is something we are hopefully going to be able to enable this year, that we can grow that provision and see more support with those skills, because welding is such a shortage in welding, and that's another one of our focuses this year. We can't get enough young people into welding, and I think that's another perception issue, and I think it's not going to be great. But we've got these massive projects across the country like Sizewell, wind turbines, and they're all going to come to a halt if we can't attract welders. So we need to do a lot around supporting and raising the profile of those careers. And that's a brilliant level 2 apprenticeship to come in at, and you can still progress, but it's getting and attracting those young people.
Okay. Well, that's really positive to hear, and I think will be inspiring to watch over the next couple of years. So I'll sort of try and promote as much as I can and help share the words and some positivity, because we're sick of all this doom and gloom. But that sounds really exciting, and some fantastic opportunities for those kids to come into manufacturing, and at the end of the day, have well-paid, consistent jobs, consistent employment. Okay, brilliant. Traditionally, we wrap up the show by asking you for your thoughts and aspirations for 2025. So what more positivity can you give me? What are you hoping to achieve on a personal and a business level for this year?
Well, we've got loads of exciting things happening. So we've got our Skills Awards in July. Nominations are open at the moment. So please, SMEs, apprentices, any training providers, please submit. We've just extended the deadline for nominations to the 26th of Feb. The brilliant thing is with that is young people get a monetary award as well. So the winner of the graduate degree, apprentice and T-level award gets £1,000, and second and third get 500 each. We've also got a projects category this year for those projects that are out there doing brilliant things, and then they get a grant award of £10,000 or £5,000 to be able to use their project to grow. So Skills Awards are brilliant, and I'm most excited about our Skills Awards this year because we've had Steph McGovern presenting in the past, who's great, but this year, and it's only going to be announced tomorrow, we've got Mo Taya. So some of you might see Mo Taya on LinkedIn, but he's a young man who's from aerospace, and he's got a TikTok channel, which I'm really excited about because TikTok is the way that we are going to educate young people into our sector. So Mo Taya is presenting our awards this year, which I think is brilliant because it just showcases that diversity and that youth that we need to bring into the sector. Also, we've got a photo competition coming out this year, which I'm very excited about. So showcasing the different images that will change that perception that people have around manufacturing and engineering being dirty, uninviting, horrible environments, and showcase the breadth that we have within manufacturing. You know, one of my favourites when I was at Make UK with National Manufacturing Day is you've got a spiral staircase maker down in Cornwall, all the way up to the north to Triwall and everything. And it's just so much. You've got Lush. You've just got so many exciting things that young people don't realise. We're also doing some work around showcasing females and male allies. And one of the females that we've got, she's an engineer at Charlotte Tilbury Makeup. I mean, young people would never realise that they could be an engineer within the makeup industry. And so that's the thing. It's just really celebrating the term engineer and what young people can be and manufacturing. And at the end of the day, everything's made. So can we get these young people into the sector? So lots of exciting work. World Skills is another thing that people need to get involved in. We're sponsoring the welding this year because we are that passionate about showcasing welding. And you mentioned it in your newsletter the other week, Cameron Pinder from Leeds. So he got gold in CNC, and I was really fortunate. I met him at Leeds Manufacturing Festival last year, and he was on a panel with me, and we were all there, and we all thought we were great. And then Cameron said, you don't have a skills issue, you have a passion issue. And that was just takeaway of the day. And we're all there talking about how we can change things and improve things. And a young apprentice hit the nail on the head. And that's what we need to do, is we need to get people passionate about our sector. So Cameron is hopefully going to be going to Denmark in September, and then hopefully Shanghai the year after. But it's just a brilliant story of a young lad from Leeds, a little SME, and how he's, now on the world stage celebrating skills within our sector.
Fantastic. And as you say, if that generates images, photos and TikTok, that is the way that the youngsters want to be communicated with, not wordy campaigns telling them it's great. They want to see people that look like them having fun doing it. Definitely. You ducked the issue of any plans for yourself in 2025, any aspirations? Can you remember your New Year's resolution? Do you want to, you don't necessarily want to share your New Year's resolution, so.
I need to start making more time to get fit. But yeah, apart from that and travel, I love travel. So yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So wrapping up, can I ask, how do people contact you? How do they find you? Where are they going to find you?
So Enginuity website, you can find me on there, and LinkedIn. It is one of my little passions, and I'm constantly on LinkedIn. And this year, that was one of my challenges. I've said I will do a post every Sunday on skills. So I've stuck with it so far. So I'm hoping to keep that up, and just some interesting thoughts and things that I think about skills and how we can encourage representation and diversity across our sector.
Brilliant. Well, I hope your passion and enthusiasm that's come across so well on the video will encourage more people to follow you on LinkedIn, and keep the good work, the righteous work you do of encouraging people to this sector and looking after the kids. It's brilliant.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
No problem. Well, I will wrap up with the usual words of if anyone would like to get in touch with the show, to make a comment, a suggestion, or particularly if they'd like to appear in a future episode, please email us at inquiries@mtdcnc.com or contact myself, Stuart Whitehead, or Joe Reynolds. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. From me, Mark Weymouth of Plus Automation. Cheers. Have fun.